could carry that kind of weight. It was my turn till I was breathing but not alive. All my failures I tried to hide. It was my turn till I made. Hey, you called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on, sing it with me. Now your mercy, saved my soul. Now your freedom is all that I know. The Omega, Jesus, when I met you, when you called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. You called my name, and I ran out of that grave, out of the darkness into your glorious day. Come on, are you ready to sing this morning? Let's sing about how he rescued and set us free. Come on. How you rescued, my sin was heavy. The chains break at the weight of your glory. I needed shelter, I was an orphan. Now you call me a citizen. When I was broken, you were my healing. And your love is the air that I'm breathing. I have a future, my eyes are open. And when you call my name, I ran out of that grave, out of the dark into your glorious day.
Come on, church, how are we doing this morning? Good? Let's try that again. Come on, church, how are we doing this morning? There we go. Okay, who's like me? We a little bit tired? That hour got to us a little bit. Come on, be honest. It's all good. Well, my name is Charles, Pastor Charles, if you will. I get the lovely privilege of pastoring the Western Campus, but I just needed some London love, some main campus love, so I get to be with you today. If you're new here, I am super excited that you're with us. I'm glad that you gave us a portion of your morning. We have a little bit of a gift because of that, so if you step out in the atrium after the service, we'd love to get to know you a little bit more. Just head over to the guest service area over there. Well, our theme for 2019 has been all about resting assured that Jesus got this. God has got this, and we are wrapping up our conversations about, are we good? Look at your neighbor, be like, are you good? Are you good? Look at your other neighbor, be like, is you good? Is you good? Where we've been simply asking that question in a bunch of different areas in our lives, whether it be relationally, emotionally. Today we're looking at financially. Are we good in the bank? And so Pastor Tim will be up here giving us some wisdom over there. I want to take a short second. Which camera? I'm going to look at this camera. If you're on Facebook, we're glad to have you with us. Do us a favor. Go ahead, hit the share button. I think it's on this side, right over here. Hit the share button just so you can let people know what's happening here at Gateway Church. If you have kids, we have a lovely children's program. Head out into the atrium. We'd love to point you where to go as well. If you need prayer at any moment throughout the service, head out into the atrium. People will be over there to pray for you and point you in the right direction as to where you can do that. I got a lot of messages for you today. Okay, so if you're in grade 6 to 8, we have a portion where you guys will get to learn as well during the sermon part. And so they'll see something up on the screen to dismiss you. Step out into the atrium and they will be waiting for you. Lastly, here, there's a blue Connect wall out there. It says Connect on it and it's blue. It's lovely. You're going to want to step over there if you're looking for any kind of information about what's happening here at Gateway Church, whether it's small groups, whether it's trying to volunteer in different areas. That is your spot. Well, that's all I have for you for right now. I want to give you guys an opportunity to say hi to the people around you. I'm all about giving you guys a little bit of a challenge. I want you to meet 5 new people in 5 minutes. 5 new people, 5 minutes. We'll be back in just a moment.
I've got a praise waking within my Awesome. Let's stand one more time. We're going to continue worshiping this morning. So good to be here this morning. It's beautiful outside. At least it was when I was here at 7 o'clock in the morning, so it could have totally changed, but I don't know. I'm just excited for spring. Anyone else here excited for warmer weather? Anyone not excited for losing an hour of sleep? It doesn't change that much. It's just we get to church sooner. That's really what it is. It's a blessing, right? Cool. Let's just take a moment and enter back into worship this morning. Why don't you close our eyes all across this place? And if you're comfortable with me, why don't we lift our hands and just surrender to God this morning? Say, Jesus, we want to meet with you here. We are so happy, God, that we can pause and spend time with you this morning, Lord. Come and speak to us today, Jesus. We love you. Unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance of my enemies, till all my fears are gone, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. From my mother's womb, you have chosen me. Your love has called my name. I've been born again into your family. Your blood flows through my veins, and I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. I'm no longer a slave to fear. I am a child of God. let's continue in worship this morning. Let's enter into his presence. You give light, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. 'Cause it's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. You give life, you are love, you bring
good morning. So good to have you all with us today. This is the beginning of March break. And so to those of you who are kind of here, maybe visiting family and friends on your March break, we're so glad to have you with us here today. We're excited about all of the great things that God has in store for us, not only today, but all the spring season long. And we're going to invite the ushers to come forward. They'll receive your tithes, your offering, and your giving here today. There are a variety of ways in which you give. And when you're generous, you allow us to be generous because we love blessing the city of London and being a part of all the great things that God is doing here in this city. You can give on person, you can give online, you can give through text giving, you can give it on the debit machine in a variety of ways. Choose the one that suits you best, and thank you again for helping us be a blessing here in the city of London. Well, not only is this the beginning of March break, but this is the beginning of Juno Fest week here in the city of London, and everybody's going to be excited. They'll be turning up the talk and they'll be turning up the burners all week long as we are getting closer to the Juno Fest that will be hosted here on Sunday night, next Sunday night. We're hosting the Christian Showcase of Juno Fest this coming Friday night. So Friday night here at Gateway Church, it is sponsored by Compassion Canada. We're so excited that they are going to be here and we are going to be here, and we're so excited because there's going to be some great opportunities for you to hear some wonderful worship music. It's interesting that We Are Worshipers, that is the band of Gateway, and some of the other churches are also going to be a part of this showcase event, and so you'll see many of our own Gateway people be on the platform with those who are part of Juno Fest. And so you want to get your tickets, it's compassion.ca/Juno Fest. That's how you get your tickets. We know we're going to sell out, so don't forget, get your tickets. It's going to be a great night, Friday night here, and then of course, as we said, Juno Fest Sunday night at the Budweiser Garden. So it's just going to be a great week. I trust that it's a great week for you, a great week for your family and your friends. I hope you get away, and if you can't get away, I hope you have some fun stuff going on for your family this week as it's March break. God bless you, and we'll keep worshiping today.
We can stand and sing again. You want to get out of your seats? Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever sing, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We give to you, oh, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one we could ever save. Worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you. We live for you. Holy, there is no one like you. There is none beside you. Open up my eyes in wonder. Show me who you are and fill with your love and lead me in your love to those around me. That's our prayer today, God. Oh, to be like you. Worthy of every song we could ever sing, worthy of all the praise we could ever bring, worthy of every breath we could ever breathe. We live for you, oh, we live for you. Jesus, the name above every other name. Jesus, the only one who could ever save. this morning. That we can step on the rock of our salvation, God, and you are a foundation for our lives. And when we put everything on top of you, with you being our base, God, there's so much more that we can achieve. There's so much more that can happen, God, because we place our trust in your hands. Lord, that's our prayer this morning, that we would be a people who trust you. We love you, God, and we are thankful for what you're doing this morning and in our lives and in our families, God. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. You can have a seat. Thank you.
Just a few more days and baby makes 5. I can't wait to meet this new little life, but my mind is spinning with questions. How is it possible to be at such odds within myself? You know the struggles we've had, the sleepless nights, the complications, the medical bills. You know the deep depression that nearly claimed me. I don't want to walk through that valley again. We're down to 1 income now. Even that has been cut by 6%, while our health premiums have risen by 25%. And this high deductible insurance plan, it's crippling us. We can't afford to pay everything out of pocket. We've already dipped into our savings to tithe, and now that's running out. It seems like we look around and see so many people who aren't struggling. Dual incomes, healthy babies, inexpensive health insurance. Some of them actually have it pretty easy and they don't even realize it. We try to be faithful with what little we've got, but sometimes I wish we had a little bit more. Still, we have never been without. We've always had food on our table, clothes on our backs, a roof over our heads, and somehow we pay the bills. Thank you for providing for our needs. Help us not to become ungrateful by focusing on our wants. Make us strong, because sometimes it's hard to live by faith.
Lots of good questions proposed to us in that video, and what a statement at the end that we heard there. It's hard to live by faith. I suppose that if there's any one area in which that statement could ring true, it's in this final area that we are looking at for our Are We Good series. Because in so many ways, it is difficult to live by faith, especially when it comes to finances. As a part of the whole process of developing health and wellness in every area of our lives. Well, I just want to make an announcement here today that I am a walking financial economy. Just want you to know that. My hairline is in recession. My waistline is in inflation. And together it's pushing me into depression. So, income tax season is here. Anybody excited about that? All right, the one guy who put up his hand in the 9:30 service is because he does income taxes for other people. That's why. He told me that after. But it's for some, it's kind of like announcing that you have an appointment at the dentist, you know? You know you need to go, but what a pain it can be, you know, literally. And tax season is sort of our annual reminder of the significant issue of finances in our lives. And the reality is, as we look at this subject today, financial well-being itself is an issue of value in our lives. That is, do we really value being good financially? Do we truly place a high value on financial well-being? And is it enough to actually change some things in our lives? The way we see things, the way we do things, is it enough to produce change in our lives? Let me tell you a story. It was a cold January morning in 2007, and a man went into the Washington, D.C. metro station, and he began to play 6 Bach musical pieces on his violin for an hour. During that time, approximately 2,000 people went through the station. Most of them were on their way to work. After 3 minutes of playing, a middle-aged man noticed him, slowed his pace, and stopped for a few seconds before hurrying on his way. At 4 minutes, a woman threw $1 into the musician's hat without stopping, and she continued to walk. At 6 minutes, a young man leaned against the wall to listen for a minute, then looked at his watch and started to walk away. At 10 minutes in, a 3-year-old boy stopped to look, but his mother tugged him along without letting him stay. And this actually happened with a number of children and parents. After 45 minutes of continuous playing, only 6 people had stopped to listen for a short while. About 20 people had given him money without actually stopping to listen, and the man collected a total of $32. After 1 hour, he finished playing. No one noticed, no one applauded, and no one gave him any recognition. The violinist was none other than Joshua Bell, one of the greatest musicians in the world. He had just played some of the most intricate musical pieces ever written on a violin worth $3.5 million. And 2 days before this, he had played a sold-out concert in Boston where each ticket cost an average of $100. You see, hardly anyone had time, hardly anyone had margin, hardly anyone noticed, hardly anyone valued that which was incredibly valuable. And when I heard that story and read it, it reminded me that the issues of value are valuable whether we value them or not. So the question is, must we truly value that which is valuable? And financial well-being is an issue of value. It is about what we value, what we want, what we need, what we desire, and ultimately, what's important to us. Well, finances are inextricably linked to every area of our lives. When we consider the areas that we've been looking at through this entire series, the question of whether we are good financially is strongly tied to things like our time and our emotions and our relationships and our morals, our mental well-being, and ultimately, our spiritual life. That, in other words, maybe I could put it this way: being good financially is itself a marginal, emotional, relational, moral, mental, and spiritual issue. And that's because it's a life issue. They all affect each other. I don't know if you heard anything about this, but a little while ago we were told to expect that the Bank of Canada would continue to raise the interest rates throughout this year. And recently they decided not to raise the rates until the end of the year. And we all breathed a sigh of relief, right? That's a huge deal for some people, for many people. For some, having even 0.5% more increase on something like their mortgage would put them into more strain than they can manage. It might even threaten personal bankruptcy. Well, here's a stat that's kind of alarming when it comes to finances. As of the end of 2018, the average Canadian household owes $1.78 for every dollar they earn. Forecasters expect that it will reach $2 by the end of this year in the whole nation. In some places like Toronto, it's already $2, and in Vancouver, it's actually $2.40. Now, I want you to think about that. We owe twice as much as we earn. And if that was a prescription being written by your doctor for your health, it would cause liver failure. And you'd sue your doctor. Really? That's a bad prescription. It's going to cause damage. So when we ask this question, are we good financially? There are a few things that we kind of need to understand right from the start before we go any further. Number one, being good financially is not about how much or how little we have. It's not about how much we have or little. Sometimes we're tempted to think that being good financially means having a lot. Well, listen to what Paul said to Timothy in 1 Timothy 6. He said, the love of money is actually a root of all kinds of evil. And some people who are eager for money, they wander from the faith and pierce themselves with many griefs. In other words, it's a desire issue. What I'm content with, what I want, what I love. So many people think, if I just had more, everything would be all right. Now, how many of you will be honest here today We're supposed to be honest in church, right, Pastor Rick? How many will be honest today and say, I've thought that thought, and I might have even said those words? Come on, honestly. If I had a little bit more, everything would be all right? The rest of you are lying in church. I'm telling you. You are not telling the truth, because we've all thought it. If I just had more, right? If I was well off, my financial troubles would go away. You know, if only I won that lottery, right? Don't waste your money. If I had more money, then maybe I'd have more time, more emotional stability, better relationships, less worry and stress and anxiety, better morality, and maybe even a better spiritual life. Nope. Bad news for you. That's not going to work. Number 2, being good financially is something God cares a lot about. In Matthew 6, Jesus said these words, where your treasure is, say it with me, there your heart. Say it again, your what? Will be also. You can't serve both God and money. That means it's a heart issue. What has your heart? What's in your heart? What you've given your heart to. Finances actually seem to be one of Jesus' three top subjects. I don't know if you knew this. But he talked more about money and greed and generosity and giving than he did about prayer, spiritual disciplines, righteousness, or devotion to God. Now, Pastor Rick, I was wondering, what would it be like if we modeled our preaching after Jesus' teaching? What do you think in Gateway? If we talked more about that than we did the others, we'd be just like Jesus. And everybody would go home. You know what I mean? They'd be like, I'm out of here. That church is always talking about money, you know? But Jesus was on to something here. He actually understood and knew that finances were an actual measure of these things, and they were an indicator of how we're doing in those other areas. Interesting, eh? And number 3, we have to know this. Being good financially is possible for anyone, no matter what your situation. In 1 Timothy 6, Paul gives a warning. He says, don't be arrogant or put your hope in wealth, but put it in God, who richly provides us with everything. Be rich in good deeds, be generous and willing to share, and in this way you will lay up treasure for yourselves and you will truly live. You see, it's an entitlement issue. It comes down to like what I've been given, what I have, and what I think I deserve, what I should have. And if you have very little in the way of finances, it's so tempting for you to think, oh, well, look at those other people. They have so much more. Listen to me. I have good news for you. There is always hope that you can turn things around. You can become good financially. That's true. But if you have a lot in the way of finances, there are actually many scriptures that indicate it's more difficult for you to trust God, and that your money can tempt you or trap you in your own desires and even drown you or ruin you. God bless you. I have good news for you though. Even you can become good financially. Seriously, those of you who have much, money can trap you, it can harm you, it can plunge you into ruin, but you have hope. You can become good financially too. It has nothing to do with whether you have much or little. So there are 4 areas of our financial life that we're going to look at today, and as sort of a grounding for where we're going to take off from. There are 4 areas. Say these 4 areas with me, all right? Earning, spending, saving, giving. So we know what they are, but just as a recap, this is earnings about what we get, what we take in, whether through wages, assistance, gifts, miracles, whatever. We all have a certain amount to work with. And then there's spending, what goes out, what we buy, what we live on, what we pay for, how we pay for things we need or maybe want. And then there's saving, what we tuck away, what we set aside, plan for. You know, maybe we will eventually need it or we'll be able to use it for a specific purpose. And then there's giving, what we bless, how we invest in something that's not for ourselves, and what we do for others, and what we do to partner with God in His kingdom work. But I want you to notice the order that these are in. This order is the natural order that we put our finances in. We start with earning, and then we go to spending, and then we go to saving, and then we go to giving. I want you to just tuck that away for now. We're going to come back to that later. So Jesus told a story in Matthew 25 that had at its center the issue of finances and what we do with them. The story was about a business owner who was going on a long trip, so he called together his employees, and he actually entrusted his money to them while he was gone. So he gave $10,000 to one, and he gave $5,000 to another, and he gave $2,000 to the other. And it says he gave it in proportion to their abilities. The first 2 put the money to work, and they doubled it. But the third one stuffed it in his mattress. Well, it doesn't actually say that. It says he dug a hole in the ground and he hid it. But if he lived today, he stuffed it in his mattress, all right? He didn't do anything with it. And then the business owner came back and he called them to give an account of how they had used his money. So the first one showed that he had, what he had done, and the second one did as well. And of course, the boss praised them and said he would put them in charge of so much more in his estate. And the third one admitted that he buried it because the boss had really high expectations and because he was afraid of the boss, and he was afraid he'd lose his boss's money. So he did what he did out of fear. Well, the boss called him a lazy employee and asked why he didn't at least put the money in the bank to make interest. Then he took the $2,000 from him and he gave it to the one who had doubled the $10,000. And he fired the lazy employee on the spot, saying he had become useless and incompetent. Whew. And Jesus ended his story with these words: "To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away." What a story. In other words, apparently what we do with what we're given is a big deal. It's a big deal to God. Well, here's a few things that I took from that story that really, really resonated inside me. And I hope that you will think about these as I say them. First of all, we are not all given the same amount. How many of you wish that wasn't the case? All right? Those who have less will always say, yep, wish it was different, all right? But let's be fair. It says here they were not given the same amount. It was proportional to their abilities. Secondly, we're entrusted with what we have for a specific purpose. It's not just whatever. No, you're entrusted with what you have for a purpose. What we earn is not for us. It's for our master. It's not for us, it's for our boss. It's his. He's the one who entrusted it to us. And we will have to give an account for what we're given. We see that too. We see that faithfulness is based on what we do or don't do with what we have. And usefulness is also determined by what we do or don't do it with it. Faithfulness will be richly rewarded, but laziness and unfaithfulness will actually lead to destitution, to ruin. Now, I believe that these statements are worth posting on our fridge and reading them every day. Because I believe that if we actually implemented them, we actually believed what Jesus said in this story, and we made it something that we base our finances and our life on, I think it would revolutionize so much in our lives. So we have to ask the question then, how do we know if we're good financially? How do we measure it? How do we actually take an honest look at it and answer the question as best we can? So what I thought, one way to answer this question is to look at the other areas of our life. This is the last week of our series. This is the final way in which we're asking, are we good? And we've looked at 5 other areas before now. And so I want to ask some questions once more as a summary about these areas, and then that will hopefully help us to determine where we're at in this area. Because remember, they are all linked together, okay? So, marginal. How do you manage your time? Do you have enough margin? Is it possible that this reflects what you do with your finances? Is there enough space between your income and your spending? How about emotional? Do you have worry, stress, and anxiety? Do your finances contribute to that? Do you ever do comfort spending to try and make yourself feel better? Do you have trust and peace in your heart that is reflected then in your financial well-being or not? Or relational? Are you serving your employer well, as though you are serving the Lord himself? Do you have marital unity in your finances? Or is there division and disunity and fighting with your spouse about money? Are you teaching your kids the principles that you're hearing in good seminars and really good sermons? How about moral? Would you say that your financial habits look more like selfishness or generosity? Have you ever considered that your finances are actually a moral issue, that they reflect where you're at morally and that are actually in the realm of what is right or wrong for our lives? How about mental? Are you experiencing stability through saving, planning, preparedness, or do you have a tendency to be double-minded and unstable and volatile with the mental and financial affecting each other? And of course, all this reflects spiritual. All I want to ask about that is this. Are you asking God if you should spend or save or give Do you seek His will in your financial decisions? Are you practicing generosity? These are things that anyone can do regardless of how much or how little they have. Now, have you ever heard of the over-under game? Anybody ever heard of that game? All right, it goes like this. It's really simple. It's a game where you make your best guess to answer a question, and then another person that you paired up with says whether they think you are over or under the right answer. All right? So pair up with somebody right now, real quick. All right? Find a pair, all right? And if you're by yourself, maybe you can get with someone around you or behind you or in front of you. And if you have three will work too, or even four, all right? So 2, 3, or 4 at the most. You ready? Here we go. We're going to ask some questions, and we're going to see how well we do, all right? So first person, take a turn. Who's going to take a turn? You know who's going to take a turn first, all right? You get to guess, and the other person has to say whether they think you're over or under. Here we go. The dragonfly is the fastest flying insect that we know of. How fast can the dragonfly fly in kilometers per hour? How fast? Make your guess. All right, the other person, over or under? Are they over or under? You ready? What's the answer? 57 kilometers an hour. How many of you were under? How many were over? Yeah, 300 kilometers an hour. No, all right, no. Okay, you ready? Number 2. All right, change spots. Somebody else guess. All right, ready? What is the average distance from the Earth to the moon in kilometers? What is the average distance? Make your guess. All right, now are they over or under? Tell them. You ready? What's the answer? 384,400 kilometers. Woo! How many of you were like 3 million kilometers? All right. No. Okay, you ready? Number 3, in what year did Hank Aaron beat Babe Ruth's home run record? What year? Make your guess. Somebody else take a turn. Make a guess. Are they over or under? What do you think? Come on. Are you ready? What's the answer? 1974. Somebody's very excited. I got it, man. Yeah. All right. We got one more, okay? One more question. Take turns again. How many home runs career did Hank Aaron actually get when he broke the record? How many? Make your guess. Guess over or under. What do you think? Are they over or are they under? What's the answer? 715. Woo! That's awesome. Oh, man. Okay, you got to come back now, all right? We got to continue our service, okay? Here we go. So the question, that was a fun game, but the question is, should we be over or under when it comes to the area of our finances? When it comes to spending and giving and saving and all those things? And what happens if we should be one but we're the other? What does it lead to? What does it result in? Let's have a quick look, okay? So first of all, let's look at over. Over-earning can lead to either entitlement or generosity. Overspending can lead to strain and even ruin or destitution. Oversaving can lead to either stinginess or security. Overgiving can lead to selflessness and blessing. Let's look at under. Under-earning can lead to either fear or trust. Underspending can lead to margin and contentment. Undersaving can lead to shortage and regret. And undergiving can lead to forfeit, that is forfeiting what God wants to do in your life, and ultimately unfulfillment for His purposes in your life. So the question is, are you over or under? I encourage you to take a look at the online notes, because these are all listed there, and do an inventory this week and ask, am I over or under in any of these areas, and what needs to change? Because what is over that needs to become under, and vice versa, we must give thought to that, because that's really the practical way in which these things change. Well, in closing, I want to leave you with a few important principles for us to run after in order to change some overs to unders and some unders to overs, and to pursue wellness in the area of our finances. I hope that at the end, we can honestly ask the question, are we good? And have a plan to become so if we're not. So here are some priorities to run after. The first one is what I'm calling, principles rather. The first one is what I'm calling priorities. So the first principle to run after is the issue of what order we do our finances in. Remember we talked about the order that we naturally put our finances in? earning, spending, saving, giving. Remember that? That's actually a prescription for saving very little and giving even less. So there is a better order. And we must start with a better order of priorities to adopt in our lives. And that goes like this. Say those 4 words with me. Earn, give, save, spend. One more time. Earn, give, save, spend. And if you determine to never change the order of those, I'm telling you, it will revolutionize your financial life. Number 2 is contentment. We talked briefly about contentment before, but this is specifically being content with what we earn, what we're given, what we're entrusted with, and what we have. The question is, are we content, or do we always want more? Are we always dissatisfied with what we have? It is so easy in this day and age, in this society we live, to be unsatisfied, thinking we are entitled to more. In Matthew 13, Jesus told a parable about different kinds of soil that the seed of God's word is thrown on. And he said the seed that falls on thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. In other words, the soil of our heart and the condition of our heart, and whether we are content with what God gives us and desire to use it in the way He wants us to, will determine how fruitful we are and whether we produce fruit for the kingdom or not. The third is wisdom. This is about being wise with our savings, our future, our daily and weekly and monthly and yearly planning, and our preparedness for the unexpected. Jesus gave an illustration about this when he said, what if you want to build a tower? Won't you first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough money to complete it? I wonder what would happen if we always did that. You know? What would change? And the last one is generosity. Is it withheld or is it released? Simple question. I want you to listen to this account about the early church in the book of Acts. It's amazing what it says about finances. All the believers were one in heart and mind. No one claimed that any of their possessions was their own, but they shared everything they had. God's grace was so powerfully at work in them that there were no needy persons among them. From time to time, those who owned land or houses sold them, brought the money from the sales, and it was distributed to anyone who had need. Oh my goodness. I wonder what would happen if we saw even a fraction of that. You know? Will you stand with me this morning? Some of you may have heard the story of Jim Elliot, who was a man that God called to be a missionary to the nation of Ecuador and to specifically reach out to a remote tribe called the Aucas. And he endeavored to reach out to them, but he was killed for his faith by that tribe. The story goes on. There's a book called Through Gates of Splendor that I encourage you to read. It's a fascinating story, amazing story, life-changing. But his wife went on to continue to minister in Jesus' name and saw thousands of people. Even though they killed her husband, she thought they saw thousands of people come to faith in Jesus. Well, Jim Elliot said these words, which are possibly some of the most famous words that we've ever heard by any missionary. And it goes like this. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. He is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. So I ask you today, what is it that you cannot keep? What is it that you cannot lose? Do you want to give? Do you want to gain? I believe that God wants to bless you in amazing ways today, including your finances. So I'm going to invite you to sing this song, this commitment in our hearts about what God has called us to do and our commitment to Him, that we are going to build our lives on what He asks us to do today. Amen? Let's sing together.
I will build my life upon your love. It is a firm foundation. I will put my trust in you, oh, and I will not be shaken. I will
Let's pray. God, we say thank you. We thank you for your love that is able to transform and heal all the areas of our lives. And we believe that today for our finances. God, we come today and we say that we are trusting you in this area of our lives. God, search our hearts. Show us areas that we have placed value on things that don't need that kind of value. God, help us to place our trust in you again. And ultimately, God, we say thank you for being our provision in all the areas in our lives. And we all say, amen. Well, thank you so much for being a part of our service today. I hope and I trust that you're leaving inspired and blessed. I have a favor to ask. If you could help us out with a little bit of the tear down. These risers just need to go off to the side over there. Sorry, in front of the stage, my bad. As well as the chairs 10 high, right up to the stage as well. That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Have a good Sunday.